everyone. I wanted to do a video today on something that I had touched on in my honey jar video. I'm not sure if I specified it was honey jar or syrup jar video, but if you go through my videos, you'll recognize it. It's the only video that I've done on that subject so far. So in that video, I had mentioned that there were other types of jars. A lot of them I don't think are utilized as much. They certainly are not as popular as a honey jar, but there are a couple that I think are worth trying out for the majority of people, just because I think that they're just really overlooked, and I like the benefits and the outcomes from them. So I made a little list here so I could try to remember all of the ones that I know about and all of the ones that I utilize for my clients. I do have a listing on my site, which is www.shop.conjuredcardea.com. I have a listing on there for a personalized jar service, which is something, if somebody out there was looking for somebody to perform this service for them, instead of them doing it themselves, they can purchase that listing, and that listing will be customized depending on your situation. So it's one general listing that's just for jar work. So then I would choose what type of jar would work best for your situation, and we would go over that in a consultation. So honey jars are pretty, I think everybody out there knows about honey jars. Those are really popular right now. So the idea is you're utilizing you start with a jar. There are other basic items that I cover in my honey jar video, and you're using honey to sort of sweeten and smooth and move your situation along, and sweeten and stick and draw your goals to you. So pretty self-explanatory. This is jar work. This is how it works. It's another type of sympathetic magic, which is where we utilize a specific ingredient and set of ingredients overall, but our main mixture that we're talking about right now is, you know, what we would name the jar: honey jar, syrup jar. So that's what I'm talking about right now, the main ingredient. It is something that the properties of that ingredient, the honey or the syrup or the salt or whatever, would translate into the type of work that we're doing. So honey is very smooth and heavy flowing, sticky, sweet. So syrup has many of the same properties, except for it flows much more quickly. So a lot of times, if people are not getting the effects that they want from their honey jar, I will tell them to switch it up a gear and start using a syrup jar instead, simply because it flows faster. It's just as sweet, it's just as natural, but typically people get faster results that they're looking for. The other type of, there's other types of jars. The next one I want to talk about is let's talk about an alcohol jar. So when I say alcohol, I don't mean rubbing alcohol. I do not recommend that you make it with rubbing alcohol, excuse me. We're talking about a spirit here, or a liqueur. I would recommend using rum or whiskey or maybe vodka. Vodka is my personal choice because this is a preservation jar. So the idea with this one is that instead of filling it with honey or syrup, you're pouring the spirits in there, and it's essentially like making a tincture. If you know anything about making medicinal tinctures, when you add the alcohol to the herb, it draws the medicinal properties of the herb out, and it preserves them and sort of distills them into a medicine that you can take orally. So you take a few drops of a tincture orally, and that's how that works. So with an alcohol jar, it's preserving your situation as it is. You can also, well, I'll get into that in a second. So if you have something that's going really well for you right now and you don't want it to change at all, a preserving jar or a alcohol jar would be very fitting for you. You'd put your photographs in there, or maybe like business cards if it has to do with work or a job you just got, or maybe relationship, a photo of the two of you, everything's going well. So you put it in an alcohol jar to preserve it, to keep it just how it is, because that's what alcohol does, it preserves things. So let's talk about a molasses jar now. Molasses jars are similar to honey jars in a way. except for obviously it is a much, much slower moving liquid. So this is something you would want to use if you really wanted something to stick to you. If maybe you had a stubborn target that wasn't responding well to a honey jar, or just wasn't responding with as much commitment as you wanted. Maybe you're looking for a job and you can't get this place is being kind of wishy-washy, and they won't give you a straight answer as to, like, you know, when they're going to call you, or when, you know, they say they're going to give you an interview, but they're not, you know, giving you a specific date. So a molasses jar would work really well in that situation, because this would really, like, slow down this person or this situation and really stick them to it and nail them down and really make them think about it. And if you put, so you put, like, you know, let's say it's for a job. You put the business card or even the name and the address of the place that you want to get the job at. Or if you have an application from a place, you can fold up the application, put it in the jar, and then put you know, some of your information in there as well. Maybe a photograph of you, or better yet, a resume of yours. Fold that up. If you place them, you know, face to face, the resume with the application, fold them up, fold them towards yourself, because you want to draw the job to you. So don't fold the papers away, fold them towards you. Fold those all up together and do a molasses jar. That would be a great circumstance for that situation, or for that type of jar. Vinegar jars. Vinegar jars can be kind of, they've got a couple of uses. Most people use vinegar jars to sort of mess with someone. It can also be a preserving agent. So I would tell you to be careful of, and make sure this is exactly what you want to work with. Vinegar also has protective properties, so this is kind of the dual action thing. So, you know, make sure, say you know, want to repel a person from you, a vinegar jar would be a good thing to do, because it's sort of vinegar is sort of a hexing material, but then it also has a protective energy to it also, so it's gonna sort of repel that person from you too. When I'm doing vinegar jars, I always make sure to add Spanish moss, because I feel like that keeps the person who I'm doing the jar for occupied. It sort of, like, you know, keeps them concerned with their own business and their own thoughts, and kind of keeps their meddling to themselves. So they kind of get all tangled up with their own stuff, so they stay out of yours. So that's a good thing so that's a good situation for a vinegar jar. Ice jars. Ice jars are, I'd say, maybe the next most popular. When you want to freeze somebody from doing anything further. This is typically used when somebody is being harmful or being malicious. Maybe they're gossiping about you or somebody you care about. So an ice jar, you would put their photograph in there, or their personal concerns, name paper, and put it in there. And when you do this, make sure, so say your jar is this big, you know, only fill it like halfway with water, because it expands. And I work with glass jars, and when the water expands, it's going to bust in your freezer. And that's just a whole mess. I'm not going to say that inherently affects the working that you've done, but I mean, you got to clean glass out of your freezer. Nobody wants that. So, make sure you leave some room for the water to expand, and you keep it in your freezer. There's nothing wrong with keeping it in your freezer. People have asked me, do I need to move it to somebody else's freezer? And I mean, the idea is you're freezing this person and they're frozen, and it can't affect you any longer. So I think it's fine to keep it in your freezer, and that's the idea with that, is it is freezing somebody in their actions from the things that they've been committing, either against you or against someone that you care for, and stopping them completely from doing that. So it also, in a way, works as a binding jar. So if you had something, again, you know, if you're binding somebody from harming themselves or harming others, so this would be another way to do it. You could bind their photograph first and put it in there. But whatever this person is doing, this is not I don't do these because this, and I'll tell you why, this isn't my favorite type of jar work, because I'm a big proponent of, if somebody is doing something that I don't think they should be doing, And that would have to be something that's really harmful, because it's not really any of my business what people's choices are. So this would have to be something really harmful to myself or my family or my loved ones. I'm more of a proactive person, like to try to get this person to maybe see the error of their ways and change their choices and their actions that they're committing, rather than just freezing them like that, because then they don't really have a chance to learn from what they've done. I would be much more likely to do some retribution work where they learned, they were able to understand the repercussions of what they've done and how it was harming other people, and they could learn from that and maybe grow and move on spiritually as a person. So that's the reason I'm not really down with ice jars. I don't do them. I will do them if a client absolutely says that's what they want. I will certainly recommend other things first, because I think ultimately in the long run, that ice jar is not going to hold that person forever and ever and ever for the rest of their life. So eventually, unless you're always keeping up on it, that's gonna end up sort of wearing down, and the person's just gonna be the same way. And they may not be doing it to you, which is great, but they'll be doing it to somebody else. So the situation really didn't get taken care of. There wasn't really a cure for that situation. We weren't really being proactive about what the root of the problem was. So that's my problem there. Sour jars, when you want to screw with somebody's life, I've done these before for clients, and it is typically to when somebody has gotten something unfairly, or it was unwarranted, they didn't do the work for it, maybe they sort of lied or cheated about something and obtained some positive measures or some positive gain from by doing that. So a sour jar, I use alum in mine, alum crystal. It's a clear crystal. You can buy it in any baking aisle. People aren't really familiar with it anymore, but it's a very common ingredient. You can also buy rock alum in my site. On my site, I carry it. So rock alum is, if you taste it, it's like super, super sour and salty. So it sort of like draws the person's situation on itself. So it's kind of like closing in on them, like what they were being false about, or what they weren't being honest about, or what they lied about, or whatever. And then I always add lemon juice to mine. I'll take a lemon and cut it in half and squeeze each half in there. Typically that's enough. You don't need anything other than those ingredients and the obviously picture of the person or their name paper or personal concerns, whatever. So that is, like I said, that's to sort of screw up something that somebody has obtained falsely. We'll put it that way. Yeah, so I think that those are probably the biggest ones that I can think of. So I hope that has maybe given you some ideas for your work, maybe given you a little bit broader spectrum of some things you can do with jar work rather than just honey jars, because I think those are kind of overplayed. And for a lot of people, from what I've heard from a lot of my clients, they don't work so great for a lot of clients. That's why I did a video on them. And I also have a good blog post on them too, which tells you ingredient by ingredient what to add for either love or prosperity workings for a syrup jar. So that's at www.conjuredcardia.blogspot.com. And thank you all for watching. This went a lot longer than I thought it would. I thought I'd be done in like 6 minutes with that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Share the video. Find me on Facebook under Conjured Cardia. I'd love to hear from you guys, and y'all have a blessed week. Bye.